What is going on, everybody? We are back with another episode here on the Bleep Bloop podcast. I want to say thank you for tuning in to the Bleep Bloop podcast, the podcast where we bring you those gamer topics, those water cooler topics that you can talk amongst your friends with, or you search on Google or the YouTubes. If you love the podcast, then make sure you leave me a review. I'd also love to get some feedback from you on any of the topics I've talked about in the past. You can send me an email at bleepbloopod@gmail.com. You can leave a comment on X at bleepbloopod. That's previously Twitter, y'all. If you love video game news, then check out my YouTube, Bleep Bloop Podcast, BLEEP podcast. YouTube, obviously. I also got first impressions of games as well as demos and some reviews coming soon. And I also have a website, Bleep Bloop Podcast at WordPress.com. Okay, now we are getting close to the end of the year. And if you are tapped in to gaming, then you know it is the time of the year when the Game Awards takes place. Now, the Game Awards is an event that is held by Jeff Keighley, and it highlights great upcoming games with tons of trailers, tons of exclusives, but also recognizes best games of the year in certain categories, in addition to the coveted title of Game of the Year. And I was curious, what were some of the games of yesteryear that were nominated and not just nominated, but actually won. So I went, did a little bit of perusing, and I found on primagames.com every past Game of the Year winner at the Game Awards. So it actually started at 2014 is the first one that they listed. Now, back then, I got to admit, I wasn't really watching the Game Awards. I wasn't playing a lot of games. I mean, I kind of was. My kids were mostly playing. I had systems, but I just wasn't playing that much. I think I was really into DJing at that time. But I really was into gaming around 2015. That's when I started getting a lot of stuff. So we're going to take a look at this. So in 2014, the Game of the Year was Dragon Age Inquisition. And I got to tell you, I didn't play it. Some of the nominees: Bayonetta 2, Dark Souls 2, Hearthstone, and Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. Now, I do have Bayonetta 2 and I have Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, but I didn't play any of these other games. Like I said, I just wasn't into gaming that much at that time. Now, the following year, I actually did get, the funny thing is I have every title that was either nominated or won in 2015, but I didn't either A, finish any of them, or just didn't start them at all. So the Game of the Year for 2015 was The Witcher, Wild Hunt, Witcher 3. That was the 2015 Game of the Year. Nominees were Bloodborne, which I'm really surprised Bloodborne didn't win, considering that it is like a cult classic now, And here's the crazy thing. 2014, Dark Souls 2 actually got nominated, and then Bloodborne actually was nominated in 2015. So that's really crazy. That's really interesting to me. But The Witcher won it out. Fallout 4 was up there. Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, and Super Mario Maker. So that's really, really interesting. 2016, Overwatch took the coveted title. Standout titles were Doom, Uncharted 4, Titanfall, and Inside, which I think to me is a real surprise because Inside was definitely an indie game up there, right? 2017 was Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I mean, that was an obvious one, no-brainer, right? Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, and Super Mario Odyssey. Now, Persona 5, I'm surprised that didn't take it. But you are talking about a Zelda game, and it was the first big title in the Zelda franchise in a while, so it kind of made sense that one would win. 2018, I mean, no-brainer. God of War took it. Some really good titles. Celeste, one of my all-time favorites, and Red Dead Redemption 2 were nominees. Of course, you have Monster Hunter World, Marvel Spider-Man, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. God of War took that title. 2019 was Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, another From Software game. Other standout titles were Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, Super Mario, Smash Bros., and The Outer Worlds. 2020 Game of the Year was The Last of Us Part 2. And I gotta be honest, I don't know how I feel about that. I really don't, because Animal Crossing New Horizons had a lot of people playing it. Doom Eternal was great. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, and Hades. And I'm really, really shocked that Hades did not win. And I honestly thought that Hades did win, now that I think about it. But yeah, I think there were a lot of people talking about Hades and a lot of people talking about Animal Crossing. So I'm really shocked that The Last of Us 2 won. But being that it did win, it makes me kind of change my stance on it. I didn't want to play it because I kind of read some reviews. I watched some YouTubers that I really enjoy play it and talk about it, and it made me hesitant to play. I felt like it wasn't going to give me the same oomph the way the first one did. But, I keep an open mind with games, so I'll probably go back. 2021, It Takes Two, which I think, going back and looking at it now, what I think is when Hades didn't win, which was an indie title that really should have won, it made sense why It Takes Two would take the title, because it just kind of popped out of nowhere, right? And if you kind of look at the titles, like, in my mind, though, Deathloop, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village, those are all standout titles as well. And, Psychonauts 2, should have took it. And but It Takes Two, like I said, that was a really good game. And it would make sense that, they'd come back and say, hey, this one's a good title. And then for the 2022 Game of the Year, it was, so the nominees were A Plague Tale Requiem, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Elden Ring that won it. Yeah, okay. So it was Elden Ring. Elden Ring took it in 2022. So each year there's some great titles, but I think this year it's gonna be tough because Sea of Stars just came out, got 10s across the board. You had Starfield just come out, Baldur's Gate 3, which looks like it's in the clear so far as being the potential, but there's still some more titles coming out here in the next few months, so it'll be very interesting how it shapes up. I'm gonna do another episode highlighting who the nominees are once we get into December and it's kind of like hashed out who the nominees are. There maybe a late play, mad dash to the finish line, to see who can get the nomination to have a potential shot at winning. But if you were to base it off today, I think Baldur's Gate 3 would take it. I think Starfield, when it comes out, a lot of people are going to like it, play it. Or Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. That one as well is going to be right up there. So this is a really tough year for a lot of these games, a lot of great games. But I think it's important to just recognize not just the winners, but the nominees, because, just looking at that list, like Hades, Psychonauts 2, Death Stranding, Monster Hunter World, Persona 5, Inside, Celeste. I would like to see for this year Blasphemous 2 actually get a nomination. But that might get an indie, might win the indie title, or if they did platformer or Metrovanias, I don't know. I don't think they ever do. But in any case, what do you think about these past winners? Was there somebody that you thought absolutely took it over somebody else, a particular studio? And from an unbiased perspective, not so much because you just dislike a studio or you dislike their previous title. Like, if you had hands-on with a game, was there a game you thought deserved to win over another, So I'd be interested to hear that. You can leave a comment at bleepblooppod@gmail.com or on X at bleepblooppod or on the YouTube at bleepbloop podcast. All right, I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Like I always say, until the next one, y'all, peace.